that letter would tell everybody. Okay, so I mail it the next day, which is, I guess, day 16 of my 21-day adventure. September the 12th, I come home, and I see on the table, and that was probably the day that I had mailed the original one that had been stamped and addressed. And I see on the table this card. I was mortified because, you know, he had the most elegant handwriting of anybody I've ever known or seen. Computers could not do cursive like he did. It was artistic, it was beautiful. And I looked at this card and the shaky, shaky handwriting dated September the 12th. My dearest M.A.R. Now we know who he was writing this card to. We just didn't know it was day 17 of our 21. That's what we didn't know. So, I'm going to give this to Steve. Where is Steve? Steve, I want you to take this to Marie because I saved it for her. I hope it brings her comfort. I hope that she knows how much he loved her, admired her, and respected her. It's not that he didn't want to do it. The time just ran out. It wasn't our choice. It was the time ran out. So, here we go. All right. When I see that card and I see that he didn't finish it and I go and I check, okay, this is all hands on deck. I call in Patty and I call in Kimberly. Ladies, I need help. I can't do this. We have to have hospice. We have to have something. This is bad. So, of course, they came right to the aid and the rescue. Joe never minded. Now, let me backtrack just for a second because I want to tell you about Joe. When we got the notice and the 21-day clock started, he said, Rodney, I want you to invite Margaret to the house. Okay? Now, this was a time when housekeeping wasn't even allowed to come to the house. He didn't want anybody in the house at all. Me, him, and the cats. That was all. He said, tell the housekeepers to come back later. I don't want them in the house. But he said, I want Margaret. Okay? So it was a Saturday, and I summoned Margaret, and of course she came. I cleaned him up that day, and got him all dressed, and I propped him up on the sofa. Margaret arrived right on time, of course. And for 15 minutes, he was the old Joe. He faked it for 15 minutes. Margaret remembers. But in 15 minutes, I got the look. And I knew what the look meant. Party's over. I got to go to bed. So I said, Margaret, excuse us. I'm going to go ahead and put Joe to bed. And then I'll be back. I put him in bed, and he kissed me on the cheek. And he said, you and Margaret have a wonderful dinner. As if there was ever going to be a wonderful dinner for me again. But he did. Now, a week after that, in our 21 days, he said, Rodney, I want you to invite Kevin Ridenauer. Now, you don't know Kevin Ridenauer, and the only reason why he's not here is he just had hip surgery, but he's been a friend of ours for about 25 years. Dear friend. He'd be the one we called to bail us out of jail. You know he was that good of a friend. He said, I want Kevin. So again, we go through the same routine. I clean him up, I dress him, I prop him up on the sofa, and again, for 15 minutes, he was the old Joe, smiling and laughing, making fun and having a great time. But after 15 minutes, I got the look. And I said, Kevin, excuse me, I got to get Joe to bed, and then I'll be back. And it was the same routine. He kissed me on the cheek, and he said, have a wonderful dinner with Kevin, and come back and tell me all about it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I did my best to get him to tell everyone. And again, he did not give me or Patty permission. We just didn't have it, and we weren't going to override him. We weren't going to outrule him. We weren't going to give him what he didn't want. So, here we go, day 21. Ambulance ride to the hospital. The emergency room knew immediately it was bad news, bad news. And as we sat there in that room, and of course I had to turn the fluorescent lights off. Joe hated fluorescent lights. He said, I don't look good in fluorescent lights. So we're sitting in this dark emergency room, and I hear Patty and Kimberly talking to the nurse or the doctor or whoever she was. They were over in the corner, and I couldn't really understand what they were saying. I could hear them. I knew they were talking, until all of a sudden the little girl said, oh, it'll be today. Oh, my. I heard that. And I said, girls, we gotta get him home. I want him home. I don't want it to happen here. Well, you know, ambulances, they're just one-way tickets. They don't take you back home. So, thank God I had Patty and I had Kimberly, because there would have been no way I could have hired a private ambulance firm to come and do and all of that. There would have been no way. So, but they did. We got him home about 3 o'clock that afternoon. Now, by this time, they knew it was the end, and they allowed him to have pain medication. So, at first I saw him, he was at peace. The pain medication had kicked in, and they gave us more to take home. So he slept for a little bit. And then all of a sudden Kimberly calls me and she says, Rodney, now, come now. So I get in the bed and I spoon him. Patty and Kimberly leave for about an hour. And then they came back in and they said, Rodney, it's tough. Very. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't mean to mortify you, but I opened my eyes and I looked at his face. And of course, he had been passed away for at least an hour or more, somewhere along those lines. It was so dreadfully distorted and so different than what I remembered and what I wanted to remember. So, for anyone who didn't get to see him on that day, count your blessings, because it wouldn't have been a pretty sight. It wasn't pretty at all. But anyway, that's the story. That's the glory of love. That's how it happened. Now, again, you judge me and you judge Patty in any way you want to judge us. You say you should have overrode him. You should have told us. Well, say it all you want. We don't give a rat's ass. We were not there to look out for you. Now, I want to tell 2 quick stories, and then I want to turn this over the mic to a couple of people I know that want to say some things about Joe. The first one I'm going to tell you is when we met. And remember, he walked through that door and he stuck his hand down, big white horse teeth. So we became instant friends. I mean, we were completing each other's sentences. We were laughing and joking and having a great time. We'd work 12 hours a day, and then we'd go out and have dinner and drink that evening. For 2 weeks, we did that. So along about the, I don't know if it was the 3rd or 4th official date that we went on, I said, hey, Joe, why don't we up the tempo on this and take this relationship to the next level? Hey, don't judge me. I was 20. I was horny. He was hot. No ifs, ands, or buts about any of that. But what came back at me was what every man fears. He said, oh, Rodney, no, let's just be friends. So I took a deep breath and I said, okay, well, of course, Joe, we're always going to be friends, but let me know how that works out for you, because I've chosen you. It took me a year, ladies and gentlemen. It took me a year to convince him, but then he did. He moved in with me. And that ensued the most 36 wonderful years that could have possibly have ever happened. If we weren't together, we were on the phone 5 times a day, every day, for 36 years. Absolutely fabulous. So, I had to tell you that story. Now, the next story I want to talk about, and then I'll turn this over, I promise, the Breakers. When we first went to Oklahoma City, of course, we were poor, and I started this thing called real estate, which is no paycheck, no nothing, you know, kind of a big pipe dream, and he backed me on it. He did. So it took us a year so that I could prove I was making money, and then we bought a little house. It was a 2-bedroom, bath and a half, 1-car garage house. Well, it was nice. It was very nice, but we just camped out there for about 6 years. And all during that 6 years, of course, I was always dragging him in and out of houses. Oh, Joe, you got to come look at this one. Oh, Joe, you need to come look at this one. And he got kind of sick and tired of it. I wasn't showing him what he wanted, okay? If I hadn't have been so special, he would have replaced me. He'd have found another realtor. But so I called him, picture it, circa 1998, July. I called him and I said, hey, Joe, I found the house. I want you to come up here and look at it. He said, oh, Rodney, I'm not looking at another one of those tract homes with the children running up down the streets and the basketball goals. He said, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm not driving across town to do that. I said, oh, no, Joe, wait. You got to come see this one. It's different. He said, Rodney, you say that all the time. I said, but no, this one's different. So he came up. I got him in and walked through the front door. He looked at me and he said, it's not, can we afford it? It's how are we going to afford it? Ching Ching is a realtor. I knew I'd hit it, baby. Pay dirt. He hadn't even seen the whole house. He bought it from the front door. Now, for anyone who has never been to the Breakers, please call me. Please come spend a weekend. For anybody who's been there and spent a weekend, please come back. It's changed. It's always changed. For the last 20 years that we've lived there, it changes every year. We keep adding and doing and playing. So come back. I don't want that house to be boarded up and shuttered. Joe always wanted it to be alive. He wanted the curtains open every night. He wanted all the lights lit up, whether if we were in the rooms or not. It was appearances from the outside that he wanted. So please call me. Come, have us weekend. I guarantee you it'll be a good time. I'll show you Oklahoma City. So anyway, again, picture it. This is circa 1998, July. One of the hottest summers on record in Oklahoma City. We had 90 days that were over 100 degrees and the temperature every day. Unheard of. And we moved into this big old monstrosity. Well, Joe and I liked it cool. You know, we didn't play. We wanted to hang meat in the living room, you know. So we cranked that puppy down and we stayed cool. We hung our meat in the living room. Now, we had always wanted to name the house because we'd always named all of our houses. We were taught that way. Stumbly Stone, The Hill. I mean, everybody names their house. So we were looking for a name. And Joe was frugal. He was very frugal. He said, let's keep monogramming to a minimum and have it start with a B. His name started with a B. My name started with a B. He wanted the house's name to start with a B. So we lived there 30 days, and we're just mulling around and getting used to it. Thank you, darling.
The kids come out and dump all their seeds.
And all of a sudden, we get the first electric bill. I opened it, and I said, Joe, it's going to break us to live here. Our eyes locked, and we immediately said, we're going to call it the Breakers. All right, now, nobody goes to Rodney and Joe's house. They go to the Breakers. Yeah. We have an invitation to the Breakers. Now, we always told our guests when they came, this is the house that Century 21 built. Because that's where the money came from. But it was a house, Joe made a home. And I'm not talking about its elegant furnishings and its beautiful artwork and all of that. No, he made it a home. had food cooking. He would greet people. I'd open the door and he'd be there with his hand shake down that big horse teeth smile, and he'd welcome people into the house. So Century 21 built it, but Joe made it a home. He's absolutely a remarkable individual. Now, Patty, I'd like for you to come up and do your part, okay? I would do this myself, but you can look at this later, and you'll see that every time I read this, I somehow spill coffee on it or something. It's gotten damp. The ink is starting to blur. So I don't read it all that often. And Steve, I don't mean to out you, but you wrote this, and I have to share it with these people. This is the most eloquent description of Joe that anybody has ever given. So, Patty, would you do me the honors and read this letter that Steve wrote to me?
Rodney will help you with the big words.
The letter reads, Dear Rodney, I was so shocked and saddened to learn about Joe's passing. I had known he had some health issues over the last few years, but as we all get older, we deal with issues, so I had no idea it was so serious. Growing up together, I always sensed his kind heart, and I learned so much about perseverance by his example. Right out of high school, there were some difficult years, and it was inspiring to see how he could work at a menial job, making pretty low wages, but make those wages work. He was able to teach me how to save for a rainy day, and that is a lesson I still adhere to today. I remember when he moved to Florida and eventually met you and made you a part of his life. It's hard to believe it was over 30 years ago, and you were a bigger part of his life than any other single person on this earth. Words cannot express my deepest sympathy as you walk forward from this point, and I hope and pray that you will find some comfort in knowing that you provided Joe with so much happiness. Several years ago, on my old family page, I made a post about the Bible, and I remember Joe saying, we need to have a talk sometime. I regret that we never got that chance to have that discussion. Being in such a large family, when we do have gatherings, it is nearly impossible to have any deep discussions about real things. What I would have told him is this: God loves you. There are those in some organized religions that are judgmental and condemning, but I believe they are misguided. I believe that God welcomed Joe into his presence, and as the old saying goes, God didn't make mistakes, and Joe was the person he was created to be. I also believe that we will all be reunited in the afterlife, and I can find some measure of comfort in that belief. I'll still consider you my brother-in-law and a member of our family, and nothing will ever change that. If you ever need anything, I'll be here. Just reach out through email or phone, not cell phone, Facebook, whatever, and I'll lend a hand. Life is hard enough to go through, and we need community to make it through the rough spots from time to time. If you decide to have a gathering of some sort in remembrance or some celebration of life, please know that no one expects any special event planned. Just an opportunity to come together as friends and family, and a chance to express support and care for one another. And if you would prefer to forego any type of gathering and prefer to have your privacy, I completely support that decision as well. Once again, my deepest sympathies. And I will continue to remember you in my thoughts and prayers as we all go through this difficult time. Love, Steve.